What's up YouTube, it's your girl Moody and I'm back from a hiatus. So hello, welcome back to the channel. I've been gone a long periodically time. Has a lot to do with life and pandemicing, but to be honest, I took a break because I really was trying to figure out where I wanted to go with this channel and the platform YouTube itself, and figuring out if it was like the right platform for me. But long story short, I'm back. I'm happy to be here. So let's jump into the topic. I wanted to come and talk to you guys about a topic that's kind of been bothering me for a while in my healing journey. As you guys know, I care a lot about mental health. In fact, that's part of the reason why I left the platform. Was I was trying to figure out the best ways for healing and working on myself and growing as a person, working on my spirituality. So I'm back. I might be referencing astrology a bit more. I might be referencing different concepts a bit more because, again, my spiritual practice is expanding, and I'm happy to take you guys along on that journey. So today's topic is actually about weight, but not really, because when you really break it down and we think about food and food trauma, I guess is what we can call it. I want to talk about this because, well, I kind of have a new way of thinking about things. I watched this TikTok video, and the young woman is using a video clip from a previous person. They stitched it together, and it was basically talking about how being raised in a specific type of household has created kind of traumas and boundaries and weird things in general around food. And for me, as someone who has in the past suffered with binge eating and has kind of healed myself in a sense from binge eating, I really kind of took to this because I never realized how much my feelings and my insecurities around food are directly tied to boundaries, to safety, security in the home. So I'm going to go ahead and post the video so you guys can take a look, and then, yeah, take a look.
You ate up a whole goddamn thing of waffles.
My mom did this shit to me and my sisters while we were growing up. I just want to show you guys how that trauma manifests when you're an adult. Before I show you, we're all adults now. I'm 31, my sister's 25, and my youngest sister is 21. And we all moved back in with our mom because of COVID, and we were all, struggling. This is months of just dead food in here that no one is gonna touch because nobody wants to get bitch dead for touching it. My mom barely eats any of this stuff. It just comes in here and dies. And yeah, we buy our stuff and just trying to find a place. But it's actually ridiculous how much food just dies in these freezers because nobody wants to go through the trouble of eating it.
So as you can see in the first video, this person is literally being chewed out by their parents because they ate too many waffles. Meanwhile, the mom's holding a whole bag of waffles in her other hand. So a lot of this is around shame and the ways that we are shamed for eating food, for not eating food, and for basically kind of deciding for ourselves our relationships with food. If we want to take it way back, when you're a baby, you have very minimal say about what goes into your body, right? Because you're being fed. You start having preferences. Your parents kind of try to introduce you to vegetables. It's a struggle. But as we get older and as we start to develop our own sense of taste, our own eating habits, our own desires and wants around food, sometimes I feel like there can be ways in which household dynamics can play an unhealthy or even toxic position in that development. So for the person in the video, as they show the freezer with mountains and mountains of perfectly good food going to waste because no one wants to be quote unquote bitched at for touching it, you see that the dynamics around food are so much tied to control, boundaries, and literally ownership, right? Do you own the right to eat this? In my own personal life, I can say that some of the issues that I've had around food really did develop in my house. It wasn't so much shame from eating in public. It wasn't because I was fat and eating in public. I've never had trouble eating in public. But what really had spawned some of my not so healthy habits had to do with how the kitchen was treated. The kitchen was basically off limits at all times. I wasn't allowed to cook in the kitchen. I wasn't allowed to wash dishes because I wasn't able to do it correctly. I was raised the only child, and so a lot of the times when I would see my mom cooking, cleaning and things, I would want to help. But being constantly told that I wasn't doing it right or I wasn't helpful because I was actually making more work for her for correcting it, it kind of led to some really interesting consequences. I remember that sometimes when I was fighting to have a sense of control over my own body in terms of like what I could and couldn't do, especially when it came to like going out with friends and things like that, I would have a hard time getting my mom to say yes. As an overprotective parent and someone who was just overall very vigilant about my activities, in retrospect, I can understand not wanting to allow your child to go to every function and to be around just anybody. However, there had been some really interesting consequences that comes from coping with the lack of control that I felt in my own house and thus in some aspects my own body. Not being allowed to eat the portions that I wanted to eat and being shamed for eating too much or being greedy caused me to have a sense of lack of control. And so because I felt like I couldn't control how much I would eat, I would literally binge eat certain foods that no one was paying attention to. Like, no one was paying attention to the mayonnaise. No one was paying attention to the peanut butter. And so it wasn't that I was just so crazy about mayonnaise or so crazy about the peanut butter. It was just basically eating and binging those foods gave me a sense of control that I otherwise wasn't authorized to have in my household. Another instance I can remember was not being allowed to have dessert unless I finished everything on my plate, even if I was full. And so I was taught that if you don't finish all of your food, you don't get to, or you don't deserve to have whatever else you want, right? So this caused me to ignore signals in my body that I was full, or it caused me to feel like bad about myself if I didn't finish something, right? So all of these things can kind of add up in ways that you don't really notice until you get older. So, food trauma and the ways we can heal from it. For me, honestly, I think the biggest part of my journey was finally realizing that even though it sounds kind of bizarre, my weight gain wasn't about food. Food wasn't the problem. It was every other aspect of my life that I did not feel in control or that I did not feel satisfied in. That was the problem. So anytime I see things about weight loss, I'm like, yeah, you know what? Break up with that dude and you'll lose 100-something pounds. But no, seriously, in all seriousness, a lot of it has to do with less about the actual food, but also the relationship that you have with the food, like how you feel about the food and how you feel about eating the food, right? So that was my first step, was realizing, hey, my relationship with food shouldn't have anything to do with my weight. I should be eating foods that I enjoy with the amount that I enjoy on a daily basis. And those foods are not good or bad, they're just food. And once I realized that, I got to a place where I realized why my binge eating habits were the way they were, and that, hey, you actually have full-blown anxiety, and your way to curb that anxiety has been to eat. You've been self-medicating with food to help yourself with a mental disorder that you didn't even know you had. So yeah, there's so many layers to food, food trauma, and relationships with food that have so little to do with weight and how you look, right? And I think the narrative is so centrically focused on looks because we live in a society where if you don't look a certain way, you're not treated with any form of respect, right? We love to put people down. But if you really want to talk about weight loss, you really have to start thinking about why the weight was brought on. And sometimes I would even argue that weight loss shouldn't even be the goal. If you're trying to be healthier, you want to be healthier mentally. See whatever that you're indulging in and see what purpose it has in your life. And that goes for more than just food, right? So thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you want more information on this topic, or I don't know, if you just have something to add about your own relationship to food or things in the past that you've been through, comment down below. And I'll see you guys next time. Stay beautiful. Shine bright. Bye.